Hey everybody, welcome to another World of Warships replay, and once again in the Mogami on Fault Line. Our team has a significant player advantage over the enemy, but the enemy have a carrier, we do not. That's a pretty big difference. Carriers can more than make up for a difference in numbers. We do actually have a lot of destroyers. We have 5 of them, I can't count. The enemy only have 3. Each team has 4 cruisers. We have an extra battleship in place of the carrier, but I'd rather have the carrier, to be quite honest. Now, I'm going to have to apologise in advance for the jankiness of this replay. When I played this match, I was getting horrendous packet loss. It was almost unplayable, and unfortunately that seems to carry through in the replay with my ship just stopping and starting incessantly. It looks terrible, it's really jarring, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. Unfortunately the replay system doesn't smooth out bad connection issues. Also, hopefully I would have gone back and annotated it on previous videos, but I actually did have my metric measurements, metric and imperial conversions for gun sizes all fucked up. Because although I use metric and imperial interchangeably, I don't actually memorize the most common conversions off the top of my head, and I didn't have a calculator handy, so the 155-inch guns on the Mogami are 6-inch guns. The upgrade, the 10 twin gun turrets, the 5 twin gun turrets for 10 guns, are 8-inch guns. The 10-inch guns don't come into play until much higher tiers, I think. I think the Senjo might have them, but I'm not sure. I would have to check. But the Mogami only gets up to 8-inch guns.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
And I just knocked something off my desk. Anyway, to start with, I head out to the east side of the map. The channel around the sea point is actually quite good for destroyers and cruisers to head to. It gives them enough room to maneuver, but plenty of cover from battleships more towards the center of the map. It also has this nice narrow channel for destroyers to be arseholes in. The channel also makes you very difficult to attack from the air, as the aircraft, particularly torpedo bombers, need a flat approach to dump their ordnance. Well, specifically torpedo bombers. Dive bombers don't have an issue with mountains. And so if you're heading down that channel, the torpedo bombers can only drop torps from either end. They can't drop them from beside you. And of course, if they drop them from the end, it's easy to avoid. So, we've got an enemy Myoko coming. We've also got an Amagi. The Amagi is really not something I want to be playing with. He has a lot of guns. In fact, he has 5 twin turrets of 16-inch guns. I let loose a couple torpedoes just in the blind hope that the Myoko might make a turn that carries him into them. I wasn't expecting any hits out of them, but, you know, if I do get some, it will be a bonus. There's an enemy destroyer spotted to the right here. Up ahead, just around this island, you can see him deploying smoke already. And although it's usually a bad idea to go anywhere near smoke, I decide I'm going to be a big hero and drive right into it. Looks like somebody was either trying to snipe our Amagi with torps or was hoping to catch me as I came out of the channel. Thankfully, they cut across in front of me, and it looks like they might miss the Amagi as well, although he's already taken some pretty serious damage. The enemy destroyer, Hatsuharu, is moving around behind me. Looks like he's trying to pop out the other side of the island. And so I decide I'm going to be a bit of a dick and circle around the island till my torpedoes are loaded, and then dump them off behind me and see if he'll run into them. We both travel about the same speed, so there's not much point circling the island trying to catch him or hoping for him to catch me. I decide that torpedoes are the best bet, and failing that I can just drop them and run. Myoko to my front is getting handled roughly by the rest of my team, so I don't need to worry about him for now. Away go the torpedoes, and now I can shift my attention to the cruiser, while hoping the Hatsuharu runs straight into my torps. The Miyoko is very low in health, one good hit should finish him. Sure enough, the Hatsuharu drove straight into my torpedoes, and I was able to finish off the Miyoko with my guns. All in all, pretty good. We've got 2 ships in about 2 seconds for the loss of only about 3,000 hit points, which isn't too bad for a cruiser at this tier. Now at this point I was going to head around to the left here. I actually had failed to notice that the Amagi was sunk just a few moments ago, so I was expecting to pop around the side here and surprise him, but it didn't happen on account of him being dead. It took me a while to notice it as well, which is kind of embarrassing. But about here I realise, and I'm taking fire now from the Nagato to my right side. And so I shift my attention back towards the west side of the map, where 2 of the enemy battleships, in fact the remaining 2 enemy battleships, are heading towards me. Meanwhile, the enemy are down to 2 destroyers, we have 3 left. We're down to a single battleship in Amagi, and as you saw earlier, he'd already taken quite a bit of damage from torpedoes. And 2 cruisers, myself and... judging from the silhouette, that looks maybe like a Pensacola. Let's see if I'm right. Nope, it's a New Orleans. I'm not very good at ship silhouettes yet, especially the American cruisers, which all look very, very similar. I leave my anti-aircraft on. I'm getting spotted by these planes anyway, so I may as well shoot some down while I'm at it. And here is the Nagato. Now, as a general rule, trading broadsides with a battleship and a cruiser is really not a smart idea, but sometimes you can make it work out for you. And because the cruisers are comparatively quick and agile, you can make it difficult to hit you by constantly changing course and speed. I do get some minor hits in, not nearly as much as I'd like though. .4k damage would be pretty good against a cruiser or a destroyer, but against a battleship, he's barely going to notice. Did get some good hits there. Looks like the full broadside hit him. I turn to launch some torpedoes, hopefully he will not notice them and just drive straight into them, but might be asking a little much. Now at this point I'm running and firing as I go, but this guy's nearing the edge of my range. And it also looks like he spotted my torps or realized that I was launching them, because he's now changing course and there's no way they're going to hit him. Meanwhile, the enemy destroyer manages to cap out the central point, putting us at a severe points disadvantage. Now, you can actually make up for holding less points by killing ships, as killing enemy ships gives you points and takes them away from the enemy, but you can't always count on it. So it's best to try and hold the points first and worry about killing ships later. But it is a good way of making a sudden comeback if the enemy hold all the points but only have a couple ships left. In this case, both teams are not evenly matched, but we at least have an equal number of ships, 1 destroyer each, 2 battleships for the enemy, 1 for us, 2 cruisers for us, and a carrier for the enemy. Cruisers are pretty good sort of as late game cleanup brigades, but in this situation with 2 Nagatos well within gun range, I'm not really feeling confident in my ability to pull this match out. Down on the minimap, our destroyer is heading for the B point, hoping to recap it and get us some points back, maybe kill the enemy destroyer, which would give us a little bit of breathing space. In the meantime, I'm just hoping I can finally knock this Nagato out of the fight before he leaves my gun range and is basically safe. While I might not be doing much damage to him each broadside, I'm eventually going to chip him down. Death of 1,000 cuts. And I'm also able to knock out some of his turrets with plunging fire through the roof of the turret itself. At this point though, I decide I need to get some fire on the nearby Nagato because he's turning his guns on me, he's plainly trying to engage me, and he's also about to come in secondary range. I'm now near the edge of the map, but because I'm so engrossed in engaging this guy, I don't notice it. I make a left turn to try and drop my torps. Send one spread to his left and one to his, or one to my left of him, rather, and one to the right, hoping to force him to turn into one spread or the other, but he just keeps on course instead. I lose 2 of my turrets there, with no way of repairing them in time. Looks like I might maybe get a hit, or maybe not. He manages to turn between the 2 spreads. They were spaced a bit too far apart, or actually no, he doesn't. He takes a hit there. But he avoids the worst of the damage. Meanwhile, I'm getting slam dunked by his primary and secondary guns, and the other Nagato is joining in. Sure enough, eventually I go down, although I did manage to do a pretty significant amount of damage to both battleships. The relatively narrow fields of fire for the torpedoes on the Japanese cruisers can be a bit of a pain. You need to turn away from somebody to really hit them, particularly if they're moving quite quickly. You need to actually turn the back of your ship, your stern to them, rather than just pulling up alongside them. It can make it quite a hassle to try and maneuver into a position where you can launch torpedoes if you're near the edge of the map or near an island or near friendly ships. But it does make them very, very useful for getting people off your back if you have a destroyer chasing you or another cruiser or something. Our Sims makes a hero dodge there. Very, very, very lucky. And at this point all he has to do is slow down a bit and let the torpedoes outrun him. Instead, he decides to turn across their front for reasons I can only guess at, and that's it. That's all she wrote. Unfortunately a loss, but I did what I could.